Oh, I'm live. A new theme song. Gotham After Dark. Dun 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 dun. Whoa. How am I doing this? Yeah. There we go. Whee. Yeah. Making sure everything is working. Alright, cool. So, Gotham. Yeah, welcome to Gotham After Dark. It's my Gotham After Show review thing. I'm gonna be doing them every Monday. On my laptop, TV. Yeah, it's my Gotham. Oh, I'm live. Oh, new theme song. Gotham After Dark. Da, 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 da. There we go. Got rid of that. Testing things. Things are gonna go wrong. Yeah. So Gotham is the new show from Fox. I did a rough review last week, Monday, of my initial thoughts right immediately as I watched the first episode. I really like the show, and I'm a huge Batman fan, so why not do a live after show talking about Gotham? So, so I'm trying out this Hangouts thing, so I'm still kind of figuring it out. Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, hashtag on Twitter is, there we go, there it is, Gotham After Dark. That's the hashtag for the show. Feel free to tweet at me. I will be checking on it. I am at Vertitude on Twitter as well. Okay, so I'm hoping to get. There's supposed to be one more person. There's supposed to be more people joining me, but seem to be having problems with getting on the Hangouts. So I'm gonna kind of talk about the show. Let me recap last week's show. Last week we had the introduction to James Gordon. Is a new cop in Gotham. His first, kind of case we meet him up at is the murder of the Waynes that kicks off the Batman mythos. So we're back at square one, and we're gonna be following Gordon through this show that is supposed to be without Batman. Yeah. So so that's happening. I really like the first episode. There were all kinds of introductions. We met some really great characters. I had a couple favorites. Harvey Bullock, Jada Pinkett Smith as Fish. Yeah, her character was really awesome. Didn't really get to meet the future Catwoman, Selina Kyle. Didn't really get to meet Poison Ivy, even though they were there. The Penguin was awesome as Fish's sidekick, assistant person, and they kicked off. One of my favorite scenes in between the two of them was when she discovered, or when she revealed to him that she knew he was betraying her, and she kicked his ass. Picture this thing. Sorry, live stuff, so I'm trying to make sure I can find what I'm looking for. There you are. Yeah, so when Fish was kind of kicking his ass, and I'm still figuring this out, so it's all new. Yeah, so Fish Mooney by Jada Pinkett Smith was kicking his ass, and then when she finishes, she does this weave pat at the end. That was super hilarious for me. I think Jada Pinkett Smith is really kind of awesome in the role. It's interesting when they add these new characters into the Batman mythology, because we had Harley Quinn back in the 90s in Batman the Animated Series, and she turned into such a huge character in the entire DC universe, even spinning off from the Joker and becoming kind of bigger than a lot of the other Batman characters, like um, other Batman characters like Batgirl, Robin to some extent, Nightwing. She's grown into her own weird, um, her own thing with her own title and everything. So it's interesting to see these characters like Fish Mooney really take play, really into the mythology and be such major characters in it. So in that first episode, a lot of people I was reading and watching a lot of reviews of it online, and a lot of people were kind of uh, mixed. There were some people that just outright didn't like it. Who's it? I think it was IO9 at IO9, the website. They call the series enjoyable but totally absurd, and I kind of agree with them in the sense that they're, you know, Gotham and the Batman world is this very weird, trippy place. You have these characters, you have to have this world that's in the Gotham series, which is supposed to be realistic to some extent, but then you have these characters that are going to become these weird things like Joker, uh, the Joker and Penguin and the Riddler, and, all these things. Let's see if this is. Yeah, the Joker, Penguin and stuff. This is, man. Try and get him on. Yeah. So you have this weird world that, Jokers and penguins exist in. Yeah, that are supposed to be existing in this world with just regular cops and mobsters, and we have to see how we get out of that world into the new thing. Alright, let me take a minute here. Hmm. It's being really strange. So let me throw up this graphic and try and solve this problem really quickly. I should have done this before. Should try this a little bit earlier. Boom. Oh. Haha, we've done it! Success! Woo! Let me switch back. Alright, yay! False start is over. Marlon, welcome to the live show.
Yeah, after some initial hiccups, I think I know why it wasn't working the first time.
Ah, yeah.
Apparently I was using my iPad, and apparently it would only use either Safari or Chrome to open up the Hangouts. It wouldn't use Hangouts, so
Ah,
that's why I
it
kept
wasn't.
that's why I kept getting that link about being the first one, and I'm like, where the hell is everybody else? So I'm actually on my Google phone now,
Ah,
and it is actually working.
yeah. So, yeah, we kind of false started the podcast. So, well, podcast, video, whatever, live show. Gotham after that. Have a cool, like, logo thing.
Yeah, man, that looked nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, Marlon, introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, I don't see anybody else, but okay.
Whenever people show up, they'll watch it later.
Okay, all right. Well, my name is Marlon. I'm an avid Batman fan. I've been reading Batman since I was, I don't know, yay high. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this new show called Gotham. I try not to read into I try not to research too much about it because I like to, be surprised, so to speak. But having watched the first episode, I am really impressed. I have to say, I'm really impressed with what the show is trying to build initially. Um, wow, I was blown away actually. And the performances that actors put on was very well done. I have to say, I was very surprised to see Detective Bullock in there because I heard the name Bullock. I'm like, wait a minute, who? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not as avid a comic fan as I imagine most other people might be, who might be participating. But like I said, man, I love Batman, so. This should be a pretty interesting spin on what happens before he became Batman,
Yeah. So let me give people a quick recap of the first episode. So we meet Detective Gordon, meet Detective Jim Gordon in early in his career in Gotham City. He's a new guy. He's very by the books, and he's really the good guy in Gotham City. And the first case that he ends up running into essentially is the first case he ends up running into is the murder of the Waynes, who apparently, based on what everybody in the show says, are kind of one of the pillars of Gotham City, and their deaths now is going to precipitate some kind of big calamity in the city. And we meet other characters, Penguin and Fish Mooney, who are all really, Fish Mooney is another new character. You mentioned Bullock. You mentioned Detective Bullock. Let me pull up his picture. I can do these things. Yeah, where are you? Bullock. Second. Yeah, Detective Bullock, who's kind of the older, which is really interesting because in like the animated series where we met him, I think Bullock was introduced in the animated series. I have to go look that up. He's much younger than Gordon in that story, but in this one he's the older kind of corrupt detective. And they're investigating this case, and they eventually meet. This is spoiler time. And they eventually find a culprit for the crime based on some evidence, only for Gordon to discover that evidence was planted, and the Wayne case ends up still being open. We also get introduced to his relationship with young Bruce Wayne, and all of this is really, you know, kicks off the whole Batman mythos, and you know, the Gotham leads to the Gotham City we see. Yeah. So, Marlon, like, kind of walk us through what did you like in the first episode? What didn't you like?
Well, I was a bit taken back by how Jim actually initially joined the Gotham PD. I'm not very aware of his background in the whole mythology. But I was a bit taken aback that he was, I believe he's what, ex-military, I think it was, or
Yeah, yeah, ex-military.
something something to that effect. But I do like the way that that he was so taken aback by what was going on in Gotham at the time that he joined the PD. He didn't know that there was all this corruption going on, and he thought that, well, you know what, I am going to stop this out, because if I don't do it, somebody else, if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? And I was taken aback by that. But I did like the way that they basically placed him in that environment, and he has to make a decision. Okay, what do I do? Do I, do I continue? Do I just join and fall in line with the rest of the department, or do I, do an about face and do something else entirely different? The way that that Bruce Wayne came in, of course, when he showed up with his parents walking on the aisle, I was like, yes, here we go. He came into the alley, and it was almost, with the pearls dropping, I got transformed right back to the original Tim Burton movie. I was like, okay, this is exactly how they actually put that scene in there, and the way that that they showed that Bruce Wayne's parents dying, it was almost true to form of I wouldn't say the comics per se, but the actual Tim Burton movie. I mean, I always reference everything back to that movie because it was so.
They've done it so many times in the comics that you kind of lose track of what kind of what the definitive version is. So for a lot of people, it's between what you see in Chris Nolan or what you see in Tim Burton version.
Right. Right.
Image of the pearls falling is the one that sticks with you.
That scene right there stuck with me for the longest while, and when I saw that scene being portrayed last week, I was like, well, okay, this might be something good. Yeah. Let's see. And then they brought in Jada Pinkett's character. I can't remember, what was her name again?
Fish Mooney.
Yes, yeah, they brought in her. I mean, I wasn't quite sure what role she was going to play because as you know, I didn't do much research into the synopsis of the show beforehand. I just say, you know what, let me just watch it, and then I'll decide for myself, afterwards, if the show was a success, if it was good, all the new characters played in. I have to say that Jada Pinkett is a very wonderful actress. I enjoy her work, and the character she brings to life here. I mean, wow, she nails it. I mean, she can be ruthless. She's beautiful, but you don't cross her because she runs things, and she absolutely showed that she did run things. And I was also a bit taken aback by how they introduced the Penguin as well too. I wasn't really expecting him to play, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a pansy, so to speak. I mean, like, I can't think of a better word than that. But it does show, how ruthless he can be as well too, because he took joy in beating the crap out of that guy. That they were beating up in the alley, and even though they showed him to be kind of spineless, I mean, you don't say the wrong thing to him, or he's going to show his true colors. They also brought in some other characters as well, to like Detective Montoya from the animated series. The way they brought her in, I said, okay, that's a nice spin on that. I mean, there are a lot of things going through my mind right now. I can't really pinpoint, exactly,
Let me ask you specifically. What didn't you like about the pilot? A lot of people didn't seem to be convinced by a lot of it in the pilot. So what did you like? What stuck out to you that you really weren't feeling in the show?
Um, I mean, if I was to really, I mean, first of all, let me say I enjoyed the pilot. I mean, it basically sets the stage for what's to come. I personally enjoyed it. I couldn't find, I mean, I didn't do much soul searching as far as, breaking it down. Okay, what did I like? What didn't I like? But I mean, if I was to really draw for straws here, I'd say that they didn't really go into much detail as opposed, for Jim Gordon's past. I mean, yeah, we know he's sort of ex-military, but they didn't really go in depth as to, okay, what caused him to join the force. What are his, what is his, dig a little bit deeper into his background. I mean, we all know that Bruce Wayne is he's not the focal part of the plot, right, of the story right now, but he does play an integral role because, I mean, it's Gotham. you know. Um,
Do you think they're gonna go back into and we're gonna start seeing elements of Gordon's past as we go forward in the series as they flesh him out and develop him?
yeah, I suppose. I mean, like I said, if I was really drawing straws and really reaching for something to negative to say about the pilot, I'd say that they didn't go into more of Jim Gordon's path. But then again, I suppose as the series goes on, little bit by little bit, you'll find out more about who he really is and who, where he's coming from. Um, I have to say, the show has a bit of comedy in there. When Jim finds out what Jada Pinkett's character was really about, he wasn't to investigate, and then Bullock tries to rescue him, and ends up himself being strung up. I mean,
Yeah, in the butcher in the abattoir in the
in the,
freezer.
yes, in the
That's one of my favorite
I thought
scenes.
that part was. I thought they put a little comment into there, and I I really respect the creators for doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of things like people seem to think that you have to kind of give in to the comedy, like it's going to draw some comparisons, but a lot of people say you have to be like how Guardians of the Galaxy was, how Avengers was, and Iron Man thing. But I think you can have the darkness of something like Gotham, and then you still have those moments that of Bullock thinking he saved the day, and then you know getting knocked out and both of them
Exactly.
upside
Exactly.
in the freezer. One thing I want to ask is, what do you think about the characterization of Alfred?
Alfred's character, I mean, again, you have so many lines to draw from, of what to expect from this Alfred's character. And I mean, you usually see Alfred as not necessarily obeying Master Bruce's wishes, but he was more of a secondary character to. I mean, he was also a secondary character to Bruce, but he was more, um, the true butler. Whatever your wish is, I'll do it. You say jump, I ask you how high. But Alfred, real in this one in this story, I think Alfred's character shows, how. First of all, let me just point to an example. Right after Bruce's parents got murdered, Alfred came to pick up Bruce from the scene of the crime. And while they were walking back to the car, Alfred tells Bruce, "Head up, shoulders back, make sure nobody sees you cry." I mean, that just shows how integral a role he played in Bruce's upbringing. And he reminds Bruce that, where you're coming from, the kind of family line you come from, you always hold your head up high. So he has a very strong hand in Bruce Wayne, and you see that in that actual scene right there. Um, Going further along into the pilot, you see when Jim Gordon comes back to the house and he says, "Look, we killed the wrong guy. That wasn't the person that killed your parents." And then Alfred, he's quick to jump on that and say, "Well, yeah, obviously you didn't. I mean, you're the police. Why didn't you do your job?" And then, Bruce, suddenly turns to him and says, "Alfred, shh," and he pipes up right there. So it shows that yes, Alfred is a parental figure in Bruce's life. However, he does know his role as being the butler, and he knows his place in the household. Even after Bruce's parents are gone, he knows that okay, Bruce actually runs things, not him, in some aspects.
I find this I need to look at who the actor is, but I find this incarnation of Alfred really interesting because he's kind of no nonsense. He used to this more the Alfred Pennyworth, who's kind of he's there, but he's kind of in the background and cleaning up after Bruce and Robin and all of them, mending their roof. But this one he kind of has this edge of he doesn't take nonsense unnecessarily. And you see it a lot more in the second episode. You see him a lot more. I know you haven't gotten to see the second episode yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, not too many spoilers, please. But go ahead.
Let me just get into it briefly. So, quick summary of what happened in what the second episode is. The title is Selina Kyle, which is in the title of this live stream. And the basic story is that the street kids in Gotham are being kidnapped by these people who are Patty. What are their names? Patty and Doug. I'll get back to them later. Patty and Doug, who are working for a bigger boss, and street kids are being kidnapped. And Gordon and Bullock end up drawn into this because the kidnappers end up killing Hobo on the side of the street. So they end up, we end up them chasing the street kids case, and we all met Selina Kyle in the pilot. Pull up her picture. Yeah, we met Selina Kyle, played by Carmen. I can't pronounce her last name. But yeah, we met Catwoman in the pilot, and she was kind of, stealing things, wandering the street. She was on the rooftop when when the Waynes were shot. And so she gets drawn into this, she's kidnapped as well, and Bullock and Gordon have to investigate this crime. So yeah, I got to see the episode because I'm awesome, and and I had nothing to do at 8 o'clock. And yeah. So the things I liked is that they managed to showcase within the they managed to showcase that story, kind of the apathy of the police force, because one of the first things that happens is you see Bullock and Gordon standing there over this dead body of a hobo. And there's no police cordon, no officers, no plainclothes officers. It's just the two of them, and they're wondering, where's everybody? And Bullock tells Gordon that, hey, it's just a hobo on Paris. And then 5 minutes later, the uniform that was supposed to be there shows up and says he was down the road, at this restaurant because one of the kids got thrown through the window. And he gets paid by the restaurant to take care of them, so he was with them rather than doing his job as yeah. So we get that storyline, and we get into also what has happened to the Penguin since the ending of episode 1, which I actually really liked. Tell me what you thought about how episode 1 ended before continue more into episode 2.
You mean after Penguin gets shot at, so to speak?
Yeah, with Gordon and Penguin and so on.
To talk about Jim Gordon's character, he knows he gets the full brunt of realizes what he's being drawn into. He realizes that, look, I am going to have to play this game now, but I'm not going to succumb to just playing along with everybody else. I'm going to make it look like I'm playing along, but I know what I have to do. I know that I have to stand up for something, and just that's what I'm going to do. Now, Penguin, I mean, he looks like a penguin. and
I
and he shows how ruthless he is, because I mean you see him walking out of the river, and that river is pretty cold. So I mean it was what, like borderline freezing, and he actually survived swimming through that river, walking up as if there's nothing wrong. Yeah, something's not right there. But he showed his ruthlessness by, you know, whacking the guy who's just minding his own business, fishing along the river for a sandwich. I mean, you don't get much more ruthless than that. And then, you know, he gets picked up by two guys in a car, and they look at him and, you know, hey, you look like a penguin. And, you know, he's like, well, don't call me that. He's like, well, yeah, you really do look like a penguin. Oh, and he slashes them. So right then and there, you know that Penguin is going to be one of the most ruthless characters in this series. So you know he's going to be not only is he going to be a main character, but you know he's going to be a very big thorn in Jim Gordon's side later on down the road. But going back to Catwoman though, when the first scene, when the pilot first started and I saw the silhouette, I was like, that has to be Catwoman. That has to be Catwoman. And sure enough, she steals a jug of milk and she goes to feed the cat. I'm like, yep, got it right on the money. But I wasn't really quite sure how her character was going to play into this, especially seeing that, you know, she's much older than Bruce. I mean, she's what, maybe, I'm thinking she's maybe 17, 16 years old at that, in the pilot.
actually, I think the actress is 16 now, but she's like 15. They're actually much closer in age.
Well, yeah, but it just shows that Bruce is older. I think Bruce isn't much older than, I'd say maybe 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah, it's when she talk in the second episode, you actually get to meet her a little more, and when she opens her mouth, she does sound a lot younger than she looks. A lot of
Right.
a lot of her age comes from her look, but she does actually look a lot older than she comes across later on. Yeah, I'm sure to talk about that in a second. Yeah, but
Right. But after the pilot though, I struggled to. I mean, you know, you see that she witnessed the murders herself, and she obviously knows who Bruce is, because I mean, you know, he's Bruce Wayne. And you know, I was kind of wondering, okay, what role is she going to play in the future? I mean, we all know that in the different DC universes, she's, you know, she's a pseudo hero. She's also a villain at times as well too. But here you're not quite sure what to make of her. She's in the shadows. She's spying on Bruce. She's looking at what's going on in the background, and you're not quite sure what to make of her. So I think it's going to be very interesting later on to see what role she plays further on as the series progresses.
Yeah, this second episode, I'm surprised at how they use her in this episode, because in the first episode she's in the background a lot. She's on the fence at Wayne Manor. She's on the roof watching the Waynes get killed. You know, she's in the background when everything's happening. And even this episode, like, we get the episode's name is Selina Kyle, so you expect it to be really focused on her. But you know, for half an hour, for half the episode, she's in the background. She sees the kidnapping happen, and then she is in, you know, she's kind of hiding out, and she doesn't really appear until halfway through the episode. Let me talk a lot more about what I liked about tonight's episode. The show. Oh my goodness! Can we talk about how good this show looks? I'm a camera guy. I'm a DP, and I like looks of shows.
Right.
You know, I like to look at how the camera work is and stuff. But like Gotham is there's this mix where it's super dark. I had somebody actually send me post some pictures on a Facebook group, and they were, saying that the pictures were in black and white, the stills from the show, but they were in black and white, and the show looks dark, but they still managed to make the actual show itself very colorful. You have these brights going to Fish's place. She's in bright red. She has red in her hair, even when she does a little weave back when she's beating penguin. you know. And then there's this mix of like old and new. So you have people using flip phones. You have these old cars out of the 70s and 80s. You have fairly modern clothes on everybody. And then you go into Fish's place. She's, so good she's not a yeah. So, and her place reminds me of, Speakeasy from the 40s, I guess. 40s.
Yes. I was trying to decipher what time frame the series was going to play out at, but and you see a lot of costumes from that you can pick out. Okay, Bullock wears a hat. That's probably from the 50s. And then you see Jada Pinkett's character in that club. It looks 50s, 60s ish, and then even Bruce's parents. So their costumes look like they weren't from the modern era per se. But then Jim Gordon is all dressed up in a suit and tie, and I wasn't quite sure. I was struggling for a while to try and decipher. Okay, what time frame is this series taking place on? It's obviously not 1940s, not 1950s.
Yeah. The creators of the show said they didn't really set it in a particular era. They said the aim of the show is to kind of keep it what they call timeless, so that you'll never be able to put your finger, you'll never get an answer to it, because things will, it's mash up of all kinds of looks. Let me see what else. One thing I didn't pick up until the second episode was Sarah Essen. You said you're not big on the Batman comics, but Sarah Essen she's the captain in Gotham, the black male captain of the but in the comics, she's white in the comics firstly, but the character is also a major character because she has an affair with Gordon in Batman Year One, and they eventually get married and she gets killed off in the comics. But it's making me wonder whether they're going to actually pursue that storyline at some point in the show, because Barbara Gordon, she's a fairly major presence so far in the series, and I'm wondering if they're actually going to kind of pursue that angle, because it's something that's really interesting to see that. Well, mentioned Barbara Gordon. What did you think of the hint at the past relationship between Montoya and Barbara?
The past relationship between Barbara and Montoya. It seemed as if there was a love triangle going on there.
Well, for the people that have not read the comics or thing, Renee Montoya's character that was also introduced in Batman the Animated Series. She crossed over to the comics and she became a major character in this this title called Gotham Central, and in that title they had a storyline which outed her as being a lesbian. So she's now become one of the major LGBTQ characters in comic books today, and to see her now in the live action version is sort of interesting. Other than her relationship with Gordon, what do you think about the two of them, Christopher Allen and Montoya, and their kind of characters of that storyline?
Well, Montoya's character is definitely not it seems as if she and Detective Bullock butt heads a lot. But I thought it was a very unique way that they brought in her character. I'm looking forward to seeing what her character brings to the show. I mean, it's already displayed that there's going to be some amount of friction going on, wherever she goes, because obviously she and Barbara Gordon's past relationship, I suppose, didn't go so well, and Barbara's not having any of it. And then, of course, with her and Detective Bullock's character, there's friction there as well too. So I think it's going to be interesting to find out how Jim is going to be dealing with all this now.
Yeah. I was trying to find a picture of, I had a picture of Montoya and Alan ready to go, but I don't know where I put it. So, yeah, back to the second episode. The second episode had two really interesting villains for the episode, and I like the fact that they're kind of having the monster of the week. You have a villain like Leonardo, you have a bad guy of the week kind of thing. It worked in another show I watched, Person of Interest, which is also really good for anybody out there who's looking for something new to watch. So yeah, it had these two villains, Doug and Patty. Not these two, but
No, not dog. Come on.
and they're really kind of the two characters are really kind of more of the quintessential Batman villain. Very quirky, and what we expect the Riddler and the Joker and the Penguin to become later on. They remind me of, I don't know if you're a James Bond fan, but they remind me of Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd from Diamonds Are Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those two. They remind me of how those two guys interact, and very quirky, talking. They have their own kind of, this weird thing where crime is normal to them.
Right.
Somebody, and they're having this, kind of side conversation. One of them sees somebody get away, and the other kind of starts and say, "Okay, I'll do it." Kind of relationship. So I really like characters like that, and I like to see that the creators hinted that we're going to see characters that fill the roles of a Joker or a Batman or something, kind of precursors to when those characters show up. And
Right.
Patty and Doug are a thing, and they say they work for the doll maker, who is another villain from the Batman thing. So I'm very interested to see where they go, because we did not get to meet the doll maker in this episode. He was just mentioned time and time again as the kids were kidnapped. Yeah, one thing I didn't really like was after they kidnapped the kids in the opening, and it took them literally halfway through the episode to show that the kids were in danger, and to get back to that, because we were going through our stuff with Gordon and Bullock and Fish, and we had to catch back up with all these guys. And Penguin storyline. One thing I really did like, even though it distracted from seeing the kids in peril, is the momentum the Penguin storyline has. So you mentioned, he slit the throats of the dudes in the previous episode and stuff. And we keep that momentum going. We actually meet the Penguin's mother, who in one of the hold on, let me pull up her picture. Have pictures for everything. Let me see if I can find it. Or yeah, here it is. Yeah, we see her, and me and my deep self, I really like the scene. But she is even quirkier than he is. You can see her. Who does she remind me of? It's Miss Havisham, the character from Great Expectations. I haven't read the book in way too embarrassingly too long. The character is kind of trapped in time. She thinks her son is this good kid and stuff, and that his business is nightclub. She doesn't know he's in deep with criminals.
Right.
And she's being interviewed by Crispus and Montoya here, they're following up on his death, because to everybody he's dead. Barney shot him and threw him into the river.
Right.
Which I'm not sure why people are buying, because once his body just float up somewhere, body bothered to check, or there are no reports of the body thing. I just lost my window. Yeah. same in the same vein, when they kind of got sidetracked with all the other stories, I was worried that they weren't getting to Catwoman, and they eventually got to her. And the second half of the, it's actually she's actually more in the second half of the episode. So I'm okay with that. Um, and I saw the preview for the next week's episode, which features a character in a pig mask. This isn't spoilers; it's a trailer. But yeah, it features in characters in pig's masks, and says and kind of indicates that there are other vigilantes start appearing in Gotham now.
Oh,
There's a character in the comics called, I think it's Doctor Pig, I think, and I'm wondering if that character is who we're seeing next week is going to be that character.
wow. Okay, so stuff to look forward to then. Okay.
Yeah. Since we, I don't think we know if we have numbers. I don't think we do. So hopefully, next week we can see this and so on. Yeah. Anything you're looking forward to in terms of maybe storylines you want to see or show up in?
Well, I am. I mean, of course, I'm looking forward to seeing how Jim's career progresses through the series. I'm looking forward to seeing how his character progresses as well, and how the creators develop his character. I'm also looking forward to seeing to getting a little bit more insight into the Penguin's character as well. I think, like I said before, I think he's going to play a major role as far as the series develops, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his character plays a role in Jim Gordon's development as he goes through the ranks. Um, and then of course there's Jim and Detective Bullock's relationship. They started off on the wrong foot, and now Bullock thinks that Jim is now with the program. So it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be fun to see how that whole partnership plays out. When I'm pretty sure Bullock's going to find out that okay, Gordon really isn't playing ball. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we won't. We'll see what happens there. But all in all, I'm really excited for the series. There are so many storylines to talk about. There's so much I am looking forward to seeing. But I'm also trying not to look too deeply into it because whatever happens, whatever movie comes out, you always go back to the comics and say, okay, did they get that right? Did they get that right? Did they get that right? Oh, they got that right. Oh, they messed up here. It's not supposed to be that way. So I'm trying to contain that part of myself and just keep an open mind to see what direction the creators are going with in the series. But I mean, like I said, it looks good so far. I'm excited. I have more positive than negative to say about it, and whatever negative I have to say about it, I'm really reaching to find something negative to say about it. So, I mean, generally, I'm excited. I'm really excited about it.
Tell me, did you pick up the hint of a certain Batman arch nemesis in the first episode? I mentioned it a little bit in my last week Tuesday's video that I had on the channel. But did you manage to pick it up?
You know what? I didn't watch your video last week. But if it's who I'm thinking, yes, I did pick up on it. And I did pick up on it, and I said, oh, wait a minute.
They who was it? I think it was Nerdist was doing an interview with one of the producers, and
Edward Nigma.
Yeah, well, Edward Nigma was a little bit obvious. No, the Joker.
The Joker.
Yes, oh. Fish was auditioning before she beat.
Yes. When she slapped Penguin across the face, that was
It may or it may not be. The creators haven't confirmed, but they skipped around when they were asked about it. Because one of the Joker's possible origin stories is that he was a struggling comedian who got and then he got drawn into crime because to feed his family and all that kind of stuff. That was in the Killing Joke, which is if people are going to watch this. It's one of the best Batman storylines. It's where Barbara Gordon, younger Barbara Gordon, who becomes Batgirl,
Right.
um, gets shot and becomes paralyzed from the waist down, and then it leads to her becoming powerful in the comics. So if you're looking for Batman to pick up, you'll enjoy Casey.
You know,
Yeah.
you know something. When he was auditioning for Fish, I looked at him and I said, the thought did cross my mind at one point, but I quickly dismissed it because I said, well, it's a bit too early to speculate that he's the Joker. So he might eventually become the Joker. So as quickly as a thought crossed my mind, I dismissed it, and I dismissed it right away. So that's probably why I didn't pick it up then. But now that you brought it up, I said, you know what? Okay, we see eye to eye. I'm thinking the same thing now.
So this podcast is actually not this. I keep calling it a podcast, but the show been almost been here talking for 45 minutes. So yeah, we can wrap it up. Yeah, Marlon, where can people find whatever you're doing online or whatever?
Pardon me?
I know you do your car reviews. So where can people find it?
Well, my car reviews are, you can find my car reviews at mytestdrives.blogspot.com. That's where you find my reviews for all my all my car reviews. I drive cars, I write about them, even if I haven't driven them as yet. I always have a first impression of sorts, so to speak. So that's where you'll find my website. Read it, like it, share it. It's all there. I read. Pardon me?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, right there. Thank you. Coming up, I changed my spark plugs and ignition coils just this past weekend, and my back is killing me right now. So stay tuned for a review of how that went down. What was supposed to be a 2-hour job turned into an 8-hour ordeal. So that's
Yeah,
coming up shortly.
how that goes. I had the same problem, and my head gasket spent way too much money, way too much time stuck in George trying to get my car working.
I tell you what, I tell you what, where you can save money, you save money. And if I had just said, to heck with it, and send the car to a mechanic, it would have cost me somewhere around $700. So, it costed me, let's see, a 6-pack of Dragon Stout and about $80 worth of parts, and 8 hours on a Saturday afternoon. You can't really beat that. So.
All right, Marlon, thanks for coming on. So hopefully we see you next week. Yeah, and you'll get to see episode 2 and 3.
Yeah, look, I got my iPad right here. I'm gonna be booting it up right now so I can watch the second episode that I missed tonight, and I'll be catching up and looking forward to the next episode next week. My schedule doesn't really allow me to come home in time to watch the episode right there, so I'm going to have to stream it afterwards. But yeah, I will be back next week to talk about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next episode has in store.
Yep, and we're gonna have another person join the after show. Mama Shellan, from Twitter, her channel on YouTube. So she's gonna join us as well next week. So yeah,
Nice.
that's dudes. All right, cool. That's it, everybody. Thanks, Marlon, for coming on. Hopefully everybody starts to join us and watch Gotham. It's on Fox Mondays at 8/7 Central. Join us with the hashtag Gotham After. Oh, wrong hand. There we go. Yeah, Gotham After Dark. Hashtag that on Twitter and join us for next week's show. All right. Thank you to everybody for sticking with us through this first very rough podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Perfect.
Bye.
Take care.